A ball of yarn is called a clue, leading you out of a labyrinth. A gathering of thread or yarn is a clue.
We are the reality distortion field. We are the reality distortion field. We are the reality distortion field. The falsehood will demonize your sensitivity. The falsehood will claim the press is our enemy. To cry fake news, then preempt remedy, suggests false identity. We are the reality distortion field. We are the reality distortion field. The
there's not an actual conversation happening about whether or not using the word bloodbath is intentional. How many brown shirts does it take to attempt to normalize Trump repeating the word bloodbath as he did? All of you brown shirts. It takes all of you. All of you are cucked and submitted to a Nazi. And whether he is twiddled around M's thumb or M is twiddled around his something. Whoever's twiddled around who, these dumbs and D's are Nazis, or as bad. January 28th, Trump was told COVID would kill people, and it took him 2 months to warn us and stop it coming, and that's called a plan to dose people. That's called the person who called off there being a pandemic team when he knew something was up, didn't scramble. Talk to M. Talk to Trump about dereliction of duty of exactly the same type. Opportunistic, pointed, with intent, as on January 6th. Are you cucked, or do you just not remember? How many brown shirts does it take to gag filleting Trump? Finding an excuse for terrorism, for stochastic terrorism by the first presidential insurrectionist. How dare you? You are ridiculous. All of you are ridiculous. You're absolutely fucking ridiculous. Any of you trying to normalize the use of this term are submitting to a Nazi, to a codex of Ku Klux Klan bullshit. And the cancer that has hurt us all does not have to damage anyone anymore. Those of you still adhering to it or still victim directly to it should be free of this cancer. It is a lie that there is anything to a culture of whiteness, of anything but falsehood and violence, and burying of that violence in falsehood to hide it, in projections and boogeymen that are actually the white people who came here and decided to do the savagery of calling their saviors savages, to savage the saviors. What are poison wool blankets? It's Marjorie Taylor Greene's Codex of White Fire, Manifest Destiny, Jeffrey Dahmer by the thousands, battalions of horror. It's cheating on a level that Jesus would not touch, but to say, let me help you. But do you understand? You have departed entirely from the script of human kindness. We need a leader who will help keep us honest. And Trump has shown us obliteration of expectation of decency. That is the codex of the villain. Whether your villain is Satan or your villain is Lex Luthor, it is the codex of the predator to degrade your expectations of kindness and of humanity. to obliterate and degrade and harm how we treat people in public. These are shocking boundary violations that we become used to. Someone who has drawn blood doesn't get to say bloodbath without having to fucking apologize. This is terrorism. Trump is knowingly terrorizing everyone in America. It doesn't matter what side you're on in terms of whether you are going to vote for him or want him to have power or want him to be held accountable for actual crimes that are unprecedented in American history at this level of power. Period. However you stand on this, he is mistreating everyone. When you cheat America, you fuck with everyone. He nearly gutted us. And we are terrified. What kind of internalism? What kind of internalized addiction to punishment? An internalized punishment of worthlessness, of we don't deserve. What kind of internalized of harm inside monster coming out are we so torn apart as individuals that we cannot tell the difference between someone who tells it like it is and someone who will say anything to sow havoc and will have a friendly face for you for as long as you serve purpose and is good enough at lying that you will never see the turn upon you coming. We are in danger because of M and because of the falsehood. And I think it's very possible that Donald Trump may have some clue as to the identity of the falsehood. It's entirely possible, as is seen in this image here. Sometimes these renderings, these faint photo-like images of the three-dimensional image center mapping, when someone does have contact with the bandwidth of meaning in a way that can be mapped like this. We've seen the falsehood appear as what looks like the trace of, some would say, Chuck Woolery. But some have said Donald Trump. Some have said Nick Nolte. But really, we have to imagine that the wisps of the matter forming around the vacuum when the falsehood appears and snaps away a known figure in our life for a moment, such that in an hour or a day or a year, when someone says, say, but once back here when you said this on this day, in front of the church holding a Bible upside down, you said, and he'll say, no, that's a lie. That was the falsehood. Clearly this footage has been doctored, or the falsehood actually, the falsehood may have slipped in there for a bit. But whatever happened, that wasn't me. And how dare you How dare you? It was the falsehood. The falsehood has struck again. But we do have these faint traces, and it does keep leading back to certain figures. I mean, it leads back to everyone, but there are haunting repetitions of the falsehood in the life of both Marjorie Taylor Greene and Donald Trump. Bloodbath. You're going with, we take a word that means abject havoc and try to play the same game of Marjorie Taylor Greene's, no, this isn't a lynch mob, I'm trying to foment. Again, this is just a long, drawn-out way of saying the conversation about whether Trump is a Nazi collaborator has ended. Project 2025 is a threat to human family. And Agenda 47 and Project 2025 need to go down the drain. Whatever it is, we need you all to put down the weapons and come to the table of human family and talk about how we repair humanity rather than exterminate part of it. The answer is no, Donald. No, you do not get to say that and then offer gaslight on that. No. The answer is fuck no. The answer is how dare you. The answer is apologize or don't get back on the stage or mic or device. Fuck all of the way off forever. How dare you? How dare you? There is no such thing as a dictator for a day unless the dictator is murdered or captured. But even if you are held captive and rehabilitated, you may not hold dictatorial control, but you don't ever lose the stink of what that is. You don't undictator the rest of your life. No one is a murderer for one day unless that's their last day. It is total gaslight and a sign that we are in such hokum of reality distortion that we have simply given up and submitted, because it is only Brownshirts pushing back on the idea that saying bloodbath is fucking abominable. How dare you? There is human family and you are looking for a fucking paycheck. How fucking dare you? Brownshirts, fuck your Nazi army. Goodbye. Goodbye and farewell. The answer is no. No to your bloodbath. Welcome to the mystery font. The answer to your bloodbath is no. What could it possibly mean to be in a Who separated families? Who really actioned that? Hmm. 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 That's a good question. Who likely advised Donald Trump to dismantle the pandemic team and disregard the trained advice of the previous administration? Who, when Trump was told on January 20th, 2020, that COVID was coming and would be the security threat of his presidency and was communicated by breath and was deadly, far deadlier than the flu, who was it that stood by during that and watched him not action any warnings for months, for 2.5 months, really do anything, effectively dosing millions of people intentionally, setting a literal trap in dereliction of duty, but worse than that, in taking advantage and in traitorous and seditious mass murder, planning and leaving detention centers in a state of chaos for a purge that killed over 1 million people. And who is posting every day about how removing the Nazi, draconian, terroristic policies that Trump had in place are all that will save us? Who is posting every day that the Nazi policies of Trump are what will save America? That's a good question. Who is a known white supremacist who founded a law firm with a Ku Klux Klan name to try to normalize the idea, the totally erroneous idea of reverse racism, something that does not exist, to try to weaponize accountability for white supremacy against people that white supremacy harms, to once more re-entrench the racism that is white supremacist patriarchal terror. Who has done that? That's a good question. Who called that law organization America First legal? It's a good question. Who is watched as a known progenitor of hate by organizations that advocate for disenfranchised and endangered groups? Who is part of Project 2025 and the Charlie Kirk circle jerk of Agenda 47? Interesting. It's an interesting question. Who uses tactics without honor, built entirely out of lies and hoax? With such insidious venom that it can only call to mind Goebbels or Himmler or Mengele or Hitler himself. Iller, maybe. Someone even iller. Iller still than Mengele. Iller than, gosh. Iller, who could be iller? Who could need to be marked by all of us right now so that we are aware that very, very, very powerful, wealthy white men have been dosing us and telling us not to wake up. And the new Colossus, if it is going to know whether it has legs that can still walk, if it's going to know if its cognition is sound, if it's going to know that the torch is lit, needs to be woke. Only predatory, dark triad narcissists and Nazis like Stephen Miller would groom people that diversity or equity or inclusion are bad. Only a Nazi like Stephen Miller would groom people that they should be dull and dormant and asleep, especially at a time when people are walking around ready to do harm to others. Who grooms people saying, I will be your ears and eyes. I will tell you a demonstrable lie and you will swallow it. Who is the falsehood? Who is the falsehood? What does it mean? What could it possibly mean to be in an abusive relationship? How could we all be in an abusive relationship with Donald Trump? How could we all be in an abusive relationship with Stephen Miller? How is that possible? How many people can send you an email right now or a text right now and can also tell people to change the Constitution for them, tell people to put their family in charge, tell people to ignore reality? Someone who can send an emergency alert or is grooming that they get to casually say bloodbath sounds like the kind of person who would point into a camera they know you're watching a view screen on and say, I could shoot you. It sounds like you are in an abusive relationship. You are in an abusive relationship. Shocking boundary violations are one common grooming tactic of a narcissist or dark triad personality. If someone in your life points into a camera knowing you'll be looking at the view screen and pulls their finger like a trigger, looking into your eyes, saying, I could shoot someone in the street and not lose anyone, it is a good indicator of a bad situation. You are in an abusive relationship. Who has leveraged and climbed upon a fog of falsehood? Who has donned the falsehood? Who is the falsehood? You are in an abusive relationship. Shocking boundary violations are one common grooming tactic of a narcissist or dark triad personality. If someone in your life points into a camera knowing you'll be looking at the view screen and pulls their finger like a trigger, looking into your eyes, saying, I could shoot someone in the street and not lose anyone, it is a good indicator of a bad situation. You are in an abusive relationship. Who has leveraged and climbed upon a fog of falsehood? Who has donned the falsehood? Who is the falsehood?
Sets the fear of separation. 6, the fear of separation. He didn't mean to cause a panic. He didn't mean to cause a panic. Prepared people can plan and plan quick. He didn't mean to cause a panic. He meant to draw iceberg Titanic.
Good gracious. Good gracious. Audacious. Be named. It's the mystery font. Tim's here. And that's what this place is? Oh, that's what this place is? Wow. That's right. You know, every day there are new levels of restoring executive function. Sometimes it's recovering the ground lost the previous day or that morning. Sometimes it's ground I haven't seen in a year. But I know that I'm not the only person struggling right now for executive function. And I know if you're not having trouble with executive function, or if you haven't been going through a transition, or haven't gone through some kind of transition of a different kind of mental state, then I don't know that I believe you. Because 8 years ago, we fell into a deeply violent and abusive relationship with someone who said he would keep us in suspense about whether or not he would leave. I imagine he said he was joking at the time. I imagine a lot of Brownshirts at the time said that he was joking too. But then he did keep us in suspense, like it was a plan all along to degrade, just like a shitty, corrupt, bigoted speculator degrades anything they want to take over, making it easier to take over and gut. It's time to stop saying he wouldn't do that, because it's all he's done. It's not about whether or not we like him. It's about whether or not we have the capacity to see when a predator who's very good at lying is lying to us, even though it feels so good to believe they're sugary syrup. Can we interrogate the falsehood in ourselves? Or do we want the lie to be true so much that we will swallow a shape bigger and weirder and more sharp on the inside and out than our body, that we will swallow a shape that puts us over a barrel or chokes us going down and certainly can't come back out without irreparable damage. Like Elon Musk leaning in on his wedding night to tell his victim bride, I wear the pants in this relationship. A predator who believes they have you cornered does employ shocking boundary violations, like telling you that your neighbors are rapists, like making fun of a disabled reporter in front of a crowd and the world, as if that's respectable behavior that he shouldn't have to apologize for. He pointed into a camera and told you that he could shoot you and not lose anybody. That's terrorism. And not only did he threaten to keep us in suspense about whether or not he would leave, whether or not he would take our word for no, he did. He cheated everybody. That's how this works. You don't guard the presidency until you can take it over. That's called treason. It's pretty basic shit, actually. And he took an oath to hold the watch. And it's funny, you know, a politician asks for the watch. They ask to be the person on Colonel Jessup's wall, looking out over everything and seeing if there's a contagion coming. So they see there's a cloud of something. We need to prepare. I know what to do. I'm good at actually dialing everybody in and calming down, and I'm good at knowing how to tell you, even about something that's scary, because when we need to level up, we need to be able to do that. And a leader needs to know how to call people together. A leader would see the gathering potential chaos of increasing technology and expertise in CGI and artificial intelligence and deepfakes and say, we need to foster trust. We need to start a conversation about this so that we're ready for people scamming us by having built new webs of interconnectedness and strategies to help each other out if there are con artists using this kind of thing. But just like seeing a sickness coming of COVID, or just like seeing a sickness resurging of white supremacist patriarchal terror, and saying, aha, I will not really tell you the whole truth about that. In fact, I'll put that in my pocket for later. I'll hold on to the information that I'm camped out on the worst security threat of my presidency, but for now, I don't want to cause a panic. Sure. Dun, dun, dun. I mean, I'm sorry, that's a Dracula movie. We have to wake up. We're in incredible danger because we've let the worst people in society take over the Republican Party. And it's not conservative to go 150 years back in time. It's not conservative to take us back into an Antichrist past, nor to try to bring an Antichrist future. No to Project 2025. No to casually saying bloodbath. No to Brownshirts casually normalizing terrorist language. No to not finding common ground about what is acceptable if we're actually just going to try to figure out who's going to lead this country. Absolutely fuck no to pussyfooting around. Are you being racist, or you are terrorizing people? You're terrorizing people. So we're not talking about whether or not or how much. You need to step back. Brownshirts, you need to step out of the street and take your lips off of the megaphones, especially people like Marjorie Taylor Greene or Trump who have platforms. You have mechanisms and ways to be heard and communicate. You don't need to use those megaphones to spread lynch mob rumors or stochastic terrorist threats or stochastic terrorist calls to violence. You don't need to unless you do, which betrays your identity. Who is the falsehood? The falsehood is someone who cheated, who shat on their oath. They said, I'm going to be on the wall, and if there's a contagion coming, I'll tell you, I'll know what to do. I'll take care of it. And at every turn, he has used them for his own business interests and profit and ability to coerce, to harm people and threaten people. We're phased into baseless rumors about the current president's son that have nothing to do with the actual matters of state, while an actual nepotistic, seemingly ghoul and massive slumlord, Jared Kushner, has essentially taken $2 billion to wherever the fuck. We're in incredible danger. And it's largely really about not waking up. Be aware that predators want you not to be woke. Be aware that it's easy to define woke. It's the easiest thing in the world. There has been no one more woke, potentially, than Jesus. Certainly that's the Kodak, love your neighbor as you would love yourself. Love thy neighbor. That, I don't really know how that is not the sum total and essence of it. And if you have a fight with human kindness and human family, I think you really need to sort out whether you think you have anything to do with Christ. Christ was homeless. Christ was not an American. Christ was not light-skinned European. Christ was not screaming in righteous anger. Christ was not starting lynch mobs. Christ was lynched. Christ did not have white skin. Christ had woolly hair. Christ was homeless. Christ was a refugee. Christ said, love God and love thy neighbor as thou lovest thyself. What part of this is difficult for people wooed by the lie of rich man's Jesus? What part of the actual word, if we get to what Jesus actually said and asked of people, for those who would say that Christianity should have or does have positive effect here, if it does, then why would someone try to pervert the girdings of the separation of church and state? Separation of church and state is long-standing and protects religion and its free exercise and protects America. Ignoramuses, ignorami, which is it? People who are trying to install theocracy in America are, like Trump and Marjorie Taylor Greene, working to degrade humanity and America. That's not how we level the playing field. We don't make everything gruel. That's not how we find equality. Political conscience fosters human family. And woke is love. I think if anybody has anything else to say about that, I'd like to hear it. Because if it's anything but the same Nazi scapegoating of stereotypes that are actually leading all the way back to the same white cis male pedophiles in extremist circles in the church, in positions of power, the predators protecting themselves. If you really are here for a mission of kindness, whether or not it has anything to do with Christ, if you're here for a mission of kindness, if you're here for a mission of being servant to the people and at the pleasure of the citizens of the United States, then adhere to human family. We're not going to entertain a civil war. We're not going to entertain a bloodbath. We're going to totally shut that shit down. You can fuck all of the way off. You can go to therapy. You can be held accountable for sowing terrorism. And you are on the record telling us you are coming with a dictatorship. And we're waking up right now. It's already coming on. I'm a narrator. But you already know that. And deep inside, we're all cheering on the idea that the new Colossus has always meant, yes, our ideas are that powerful. Yes, our hearts are that big. Yes, our courage is as big as Michael Landon's smile is embarrassing. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. And we don't leave anyone behind. We can remove the training wheels that we've had on this nation for white people for the entire length of this violent occupation with a little vacation on top. We can, instead of continuing to be predatory upon human need and vulnerability, I believe we can adjust our capitalism to capitalize entirely on human want. Because instead of farming our misery, we might as well build a world where we're farming our ambitions and, our actual pursuit of happiness, not our hope to one day have the free time to heal enough to begin to think about what we would want to do if we ever had the freedom to pursue happiness. We've all been wronged. We've all been wronged. But that doesn't erase the greatest damages and deep, deep, deep wrongs of enslavement and genocide and residential schools. And only cowards and bad people would lie to children and tell them that it didn't happen. Only bad people would take the opportunity to try to erase crimes, to continue to profit on human rights atrocities for which there are no statute of limitations. Only someone like Ron DeSantis or Donald Trump or Marjorie Taylor Greene or Tucker Carlson or Alex Jones, who actually thirsts to damage people and drink blood and crush and conquer people. Only people with that kind of incredible terroristic malice would wantonly sow this. But the rest of us seem dumbfounded to either be able to wake and say, absolutely not, or to be aware if we are stimulated by the incredible, sadistic, degrading attacks, the shocking boundary violations of Marjorie and Carrie Lake and Trump, and of Stephen Miller, and of Steve Bannon, if we are not shocked by the attacks of Elon Musk, if we're not shocked by the attacks of Tucker Carlson, if we're instead stimulated and find that sticky and yummy and cocaine sugary, if we like that, are you able to interrogate what's happening there? And if you're not aware of the documented massive traitorous lies of someone like Tucker Carlson or Alex Jones, are you buckled into a world of just entertaining whatever magic potion you think life has become? It's not a movie. It's not on TV. It is a movie, TV, sculpted reality. But the death is just as lonely, in fact, much more lonely. And the harm is for real, and nobody is in the credits. Dust is the credits. The taste of our families in the back of our mouth is the credits. The taste of smoke and hair burning is the credits. It's time to understand that the worst people in society, the people who have actual Nazi cancer, are trying to take power forever here. That's Project 2025. 50 years ago, Ronald Reagan started a trajectory that totally decimated the lives of people who should have been able to buy homes like their parents did 50 years ago. Project 2025 is a massive escalation of that same theft and farming of people, but with the added entrenchment of totalitarian Nazi dictatorship and concentration camps and mass deportations and family separations and, mark my word, torture and bloodbath. Stephen Miller is licking his lips at the prospect. That is Stephen Miller, Stephen M. We need to take Project 2025 exactly as seriously as we would take any attack by a terrorist, well-funded group who means harm to our families and harm to our nation. Project 2025 is an attack on America. And whatever they say about deep state, this or that, they're coming to gut the systems that have held anything good here together and are coming to sow Ku Klux Klan apocalypse if we don't stop them. Just like Trump promised COVID would just go away, we terrorized as we have been for 8 years want him to just go away or to believe that it's just not that bad. He wouldn't do that. But then why would they publish it? Why would this Nazi predator, Stephen Miller, why would this Roy Cohn wannabe be brazenly talking about reinstituting the same terroristic, racist, xenophobic, horrific policies? Why? Because they believe it's a cakewalk. That means it has to be stopped. It's not going to just go away. We have fascism. And the only way to save America from fascism is to tell fascism no with boundaries of steel. Stephen Miller needs to be marked by us. Mark well the white whale. Mark well this predator. For everyone's safety. This isn't something that we can just let be. This is an attack that has been going on in slow, deliberate, violent motion for 8 years. And it's too late to say, no, we don't want to have to stop this. It will either crush millions of lives, or we wake up and stop it now. We wake up and stop it now. We wake up and stop it now. What is Project 2025? You know, that's a good question, and you should look it up. Because it is printed in the Heritage Foundation and this conglomeration of neo-Nazi organizations has set sail for harming America. That's what's happening. If you're being pulled into this mix, you need to seek help to know how to help people deprogram. You need to seek mental health care because you are being radicalized, or there are attempts to radicalize you that are about ending democracy in America and sowing violence. If you see something, say something. And right now, very clearly we see Project 2025 and Agenda 47 and these neo-Nazis like Stephen Miller. This threat does not just go away. We can and must rise to this occasion. I hope you're doing well. You know, sometimes topics are weighty. It's not fun. It's horrific. But the alternative, remaining asleep, that's havoc. That's suicide. Remaining asleep while a predator tells us they're returning is havoc. And we deserve to survive. America and our democracy deserves to continue to grow. We deserve to work our problems out and remember that between, now wait a minute, what was that you said, and civil war, there's an entire bandwidth called communication. More and more, those actually committing censorship are telling us that reproach is censorship. But it's pretty funny. I think that the fuck your feelings crowd, who are all about the fleecing, the fuck your feelings crowd actually really, really does have some big feelings about fucking people's feelings. Fuck your feelings seems to say, you sensitive hippies, you weak, sensitive people. Yep, we're all people. That's true. We're all people. We're all sensitive. We're all human beings. And fuck your feelings is not only just not constructive, it's not telling it like it is, it's a meltdown, it's just belligerence. And that can be helpful sometimes, but if it's not going somewhere, it's just belligerence. That's not leveling with anyone. It's consistently trying to have higher ground or turn the handshake upside down. It's someone trying to have the ability to level you rather than showing you the honor and neighborhood or union of leveling with one another, of saying, let's make sure that our scales measure a pound of flour the same. A person who says, fuck your feelings, and then does things to drive that home, is participating, frankly, in the bandwidth of terrorism. At some point, that is just what we're looking at. That we're looking at people like Stephen Miller and Donald Trump and Marjorie Taylor Greene, who are working actively to create panic, to disable and turn chaos into violence that they can action or hold accountable in some nefarious way to spread totalitarian power. All we have to do is wake up and remember that our courage and our belief in our creativity is not misplaced. and to remember that in submission and in terror, we lose creativity. We lose the ability to even remember that there's a way out of the room. We forget our friends. We forget that we had an idea about how to make some money until we're panicking that we don't have any. We are being degraded and attacked every day by someone who just said, I didn't mean, who's not apologizing for literally terrifying people, intentionally terrifying people with a word like bloodbath. Instead of all of us saying, no, apologize or you don't take another step forward. Apologize or the trap door opens and you go back home. You're kicked off Big Brother, Mr. Trump. There has to be a line, or else we have entirely submitted. Because this is clearly stochastic terror. How many brown shirts does it take? How many brown shirts happy to be cucked does it take to gag for Trump? All of you, apparently. All of you lining up to fillet him. It's truly sad that you have so little belief in America that you think we need to go back to an old corruption of such terrible apocalypse, that you want to remove massive strides made, that you want to go backwards and erase not just the life of Frederick Douglass from history, but the achievements such that someone is doomed to have to solve those problems or live those transgressions and fight those wrongs again. Who is the falsehood? The falsehood is anyone pushing the idea that enslavement wasn't so bad. The falsehood is anyone trying to tell the descendants of enslaved people that enslaved people benefited from that. Jeffrey Dahmer's victims did not benefit from the moments they survived. They didn't write letters of thanks, and they shouldn't. And Ron DeSantis should be laughed out of office for that fucking terroristic bullshit. We have to wake up, because the devastating police state that's unfolding with cop cities and normalizing Nazi Handmaid's Tale bullshit will destroy thousands, but probably millions of lives, and potentially that includes potentially mass murder. But even without that, the simple repercussions of what has already happened around Roe versus Wade has placed hundreds of thousands of women and children into terroristic relationships that will end when they die, or when some massive shape unbuckles and fortune opens in ways that rarely happens on Earth. You are dooming people to being controlled by violent men who won't leave. And while we're literally terrorizing and threatening women with things like the death penalty, we seem to want to continue to let women be a playground for men to have random sex in. It's absolutely patriarchal terrorist nonsense. It is normalizing the incel bullshit that Mr. Rogers and an actual male role model would sort out. Like, we have serious, serious sickness in the human family's basic social awareness of what human kindness is about and what we come from. Because we depend on our leaders keeping us honest. We depend on people holding a standard and holding the rules. And when the person who is supposed to be the one on the wall, who has the watch, just fucks off and is like, oh yeah, no, of course I'm gonna fucking grab the pearls for myself. Fuck y'all. Of course I'm gonna do that. Oh, I didn't do anything wrong. Oh, by the way, I'm coming back. Oh, what, this poop and blood on my pants from last time I was here and tried to beat the shit out of y'all for fun? Like, we're not paying attention to what he's done. We're not paying attention to what he did to us and what it's meant. Because he grabbed our nation's private parts. He grabbed documents that threatened the lives of people around the world. Nothing like anyone else has ever done. Certainly not Biden, certainly not W. We're talking about espionage, we're talking about recklessness and megalomania, such carelessness that is either disqualifyingly incompetent or disqualifyingly volitional. And with any of these issues, the question comes back. Because eventually all of the musical chairsing that he does comes down to one. It's a vector between incompetence and volition. Did he have absolutely fuck all ability, like have no ability to know how to do anything, so that he was so bad at stuff that everything went to hell? Or did he intend for things to go to hell, for him to take control with volition? Incompetence or volition? Incompetence or volition? Because anywhere between disqualifying incompetence and disqualifying volition, any cocktail between the two, it's trivial. That's just your flavor of Arnie Palmer. But it's all disqualifying. It's all disqualifying. If he was so bad at drawing a massive protest to the White House and the Capitol that it ended in a bifurcated coup, both clerical and violent, if he was so bad at doing what he was doing that happened, it's totally disqualifying. That's not a president, that's total failure. That's apeshit total failure. Disqualifying. If he instead meant to do that, meant to coax everyone there saying, oh, I have proof, I'll tell you. And then hocus pocusing and never mentioning, oh, what proof? I don't know, but we have to fight for the country. Like, everybody's there, and Lucy's like, yeah, come kick the football. Here, come kick the proof. Oh, wait. Come kick. You know you're here to kick. Come fight. Let's go to the Capitol. Come kick. The football's moving into the Capitol. Go kick the football, everybody. Like 2 months of not producing the proof. Of course he's gonna. That's why we're going to this big wild party. Like, the proof that is totally invisible but also everywhere, which Rudy and Trump promised, obviously. I mean, now we're in person, of course. Yoink. What football? What proof? I didn't say that oh no, the FBI stopped me from, I couldn't, I'm the president. I don't have the power to produce a photograph of proof that I say is everywhere. I mean, I'm not the president. The fuck? Do we remember any of this? Do we remember the Groundhog's Day? Every day that he is not sending the proof again and again and again. That's called suspense. That's called I'll keep you in suspense until it's too late for the proof. And then he still doesn't give us the proof. But people have been worked up into the fervor based on the idea that there would be proof. And so they're kind of past the Rubicon. And they're kind of juiced and they're like, yeah, we're going to take this place over. Based on the idea that there was fraud and Trump could prove it. Never happened. Never once given one scrap of proof that showed anything that would change the outcome in Trump's favor. All of the fraud we found is Trump's fraud. If Antifa and Black Lives Matter did the insurrection, then why? Why? Where? Who? What? Why are they so? Why is it so easy to arrest? Oh God! It's just the magical thinking of this all is so amazing. It is truly that if you don't have evidence, then the evidence must have been hidden. If you can't prove that it was all Antifa and Black Lives Matter who did January 6th and Nancy Pelosi and the FBI made it happen, for what fucking what? Yeah. Yeah, this is we're dealing with full cult impregnation via reality distortions. That once someone has given you the confidence, like the confidence has been given, you've swallowed the Eucharist of Trump's what the fuck are you talking about lie? Some totally bizarre, embarrassing thing that if you were to tell somebody, you know, there's a pizza parlor where there's pedophiles in the basement and blah, blah. What? There's a reason the QAnon craziness is not mainstream, because if it shows itself in the light, it is plainly laughed out of daylight because it's batshit insanity and Nazi, racist, xenophobic trash. It's not factual. It's clearly fostering themes that help corporations acquire more power. It's pretty clear. It's pretty clear. But in any case, the ability to actually interrogate these things and to ask oneself, do I have the sources to actually double check this? Because certainly, substantially, many people, it seems, who count themselves Trump supporters are only listening to him and would simply take his word and go by the tone of his voice to say, oh, he's saying a fact now. Listen, oh, oh, God, that was official. He really meant that. That wasn't. For whom just simply the pronouncement of anything is believed as fact. And for somebody who is demonstrably lying in such massive and deadly ways, we definitely are in danger and have to do some sort of massive communications and outreach to make sure that people have access to basic information. That something like an outage of air raid sirens is potentially at hand. That how do we let the general population know if there is compromising infiltration? Because that's what we're looking at. Something like Cop City is a cancerous abomination in a country that has not dealt with its American apartheid. We have real work to do to be in any place to make institutions that massive and those kinds of investments that are clearly going to militarization and police state manufacturing. We can't afford that. We can't afford to allow what is definitely a re-entrenchment of the Ku Klux Klan. We can't allow that. That's cancer. And it's not healthy. And it's not safe. It's definitely not safe for officers. It's one of the craziest things about the way that Marjorie Taylor Greene demonizes Black Lives Matter is that the aims of Black Lives Matter are pro-cop. The aims of Black Lives Matter are pro-humanity. The aims of Black Lives Matter are woke. And that means fostering human family. That means peace officers go home safe. That means the best peace officers are the ones we make sure to keep. And we figure out a new way to be together. We update and we grow. And friends don't let friends drive fascist. We do not allow someone who innovates with how they degrade our expectations of one another to lead us. They led us astray once. We don't let them come and finish taking us apart. So, no, Donald, you don't get to threaten us with Bloodbath and just walk away. No, you can back that terrorism the fuck away from American family. Back off with your terrorist nonsense. Back off with your Nazi gaslight. And check yourself. That's where we are. We're just going to fucking stop you. We're just going to stop Agenda 47 and Project 2025. Stephen, we're just going to stop you. We're going to stop your Nazi, patriarchal terrorism. Why? Because it's the kindest thing we can possibly do. It's like I said, woke is love.
I made a speech. I looked out. The field it looked like 1.5 million people. They showed a field where there were practically nobody standing there.
The new White House press secretary, Sean Spicer, gave his first press briefing. He was also highly critical of some media organisations of the way he felt they had misrepresented the number of people who'd attended Friday's inauguration ceremony.
No one had numbers because the National Park Service, which controls the National Mall, does not put any out. This was the largest audience to ever witness an inauguration, period, both in person and around the globe.
It's
It
still
does
out
not
there.
excuse, and you did not answer the question.
I did answer
No,
your
you
question.
did not. You did
Yes,
not
I
answer
did.
the question of why the president asked the White House press secretary to come out in front of the podium for the first time and utter a falsehood. Why did he do that? It undermines the credibility of the entire White House press office
No,
on
it
day
doesn't.
one.
Don't be so overly dramatic about it, Chuck. You're saying it's a falsehood, and they're giving Sean Spicer, our press secretary, gave alternative facts to that. But the point
Wait a minute.
remains.
Alternative.
This was the largest ever.
Yes. It does make sense, you know, that if you did want to take control with fascism, sure, grab someone by the genitals, just hang on, tell them, shut up, can't do anything about this, I'm a star. Nobody will believe you. You want me to be here. You want my hand on your crotch. You know, just hang out for a while. You know, let them good and know that you can come back whenever you want and take over the rest of their body. You know, that's just a normal thing to do and say, and totally normal for someone seeking the highest office in the world to normalize that and to have people, to have Brownshirts helping them sow Handmaid's Tale Nazi apocalypse. Is it? Is it normal, or is it being normalized? Is it normal, or is it something that we are soaking in? Because Madge wants us to soak in this. Every day is 1776. Hate and panic. It seems pretty clear that the idea of incepting fear and incepting trigger space, again, to be able to cause chaos, to take fascistic control, that's what Marjorie is bringing. That's what Trump is bringing. It's the Alex Jones bandwidth of life. It's absolute corruption and cannibalistic hatred for power. And I think we can do better. I think we can stop it. So that's the moonshot we're on about. And that's, I think, what a leader should do. If any of us sees something, we should say something. That's a pretty old one, but it's a good one. Way, way better than great. After all, Great is the enemy of the good, they say. I think my uncle, who fought the Nazis, along with other American patriots who actually have defended freedom, I think that Trump must understand that the greatest generation probably doesn't really appreciate the Ku Klux Klan terroristic origins of Make America Great Again. And you should realize that, you know, those of us who care about honor and about truth, justice, and the American way, and about equality, so that we care about things like diversity and equity and inclusion, that we care about being decent people. We're not worried about who is the best. We know that it's worth pulling together to be a union that lets people who disagree about things still hold a country together that protects people. We are happy to be the second greatest generation. We don't need to be the best, but we are going to stop the Nazis again. What is that after all? What is that coming? It's definitely Project 2025. And America needs to wake up so that we are not devoured by the Nazis of the Heritage Foundation, like Stephen Miller. We need to rise to the challenge of actually uniting us and actually confronting the crime that has happened. We need to get over the incredible bullshit gaslight of anyone doubting the veracity of Trump's crimes and let the courts settle this nonsense on the legal frame while we deal with what we have all seen happen in broad daylight, including a man known to have drawn American blood, seemingly, at best, casually using the term bloodbath without thought to the terror it would cause. That's not anyone we should be entertaining as a possible leader. You see, there's not really a conversation to be had about whether or not it's acceptable for someone to use a term like bloodbath the way Trump did. It's terroristic bullshit. And for someone who has drawn American blood, it's completely unacceptable and disqualifying. And anyone trying to protect him or normalize his use of this term is acting like a fucking brown shirt.